Hello, Oscar. Hope you're having fun. It's Grandpa here and, of course, Moosey. How you doing, Moosey? You all right? Yeah, I'm good. Yep, looking forward to Christmas. So Moosey's got some antlers, so they'll be very good for reindeers and Father Christmas. That'll be, I think, yeah, I reckon you should go with Father Christmas, don't you? Yep, I'd like to do that, says Moosey. Anyway, it was lovely to see you doing some Advent calendar scientific experiments yesterday. Hope we'll see you doing some more. Lovely. And lots of love from Granny too, and from Auntie Anna. And lots of love to Mummy and Daddy and your little sister. So we had started reading Mr. Messy last time. And if you remember, Mr. Messy lived in a particularly messy looking house. The paint was peeling, the windows were broken, there were tiles missing from the roof. The flower beds were overgrown with weeds, the garden gate was off its hinges, and had Mr. Messy cut the grass in his garden lately? He had not. Do you remember? Look, wonky chimney on there as well. So, one morning Mr. Messy woke up in his messy bed, yawned, scratched, got up, cleaned his teeth, leaving the top off the toothpaste. You never do that, do you, Oscar? No. Had his breakfast, spilling cornflakes all over the floor. And then set out for a walk, tripping over a brush he'd left lying in the garden 2 weeks before. Poor Mr. Messy, he's fallen over the brush and taken a tumble. There was a wood behind Mr. Messy's messy house with the messy garden, and that's where he went for his walk. There he is, going for his walk. It was a particularly large wood with lots and lots of trees, and it took Mr. Messy a long time to walk through it. But he didn't really mind because he felt like walking that morning. So he walked and walked right through the wood until he came to the other side. And do you know what he found on the other side of the wood? Ooh, what could that be, Oscar? Mr. Messy found the neatest, prettiest looking little cottage that he had ever seen. Look at that, isn't that sweet? It had a lovely little garden with a stream running through the middle of it. Indeed it did. Right, so, what happens next? There was a man in the garden clipping the hedge. He looked up as Mr. Messy approached. "Good morning, I'm Mr. Messy," said Mr. Messy. "I can see that," replied the man, looking him up and down. "I'm Mr. Tidy." Whoa. Who would you rather be, Oscar? Mr. Messy or Mr. Tidy? I think you'd better ask Mummy and Daddy that. I'm Mr. Neat," said another man, appearing out of the house. "Tidy and neat," said Mr. Tidy. "Neat and tidy," said Mr. Neat. "We're in the business together," explained Mr. Tidy, "and the people who own this house have asked us to do some work for them." "What sort of work?" asked Mr. Messy. "Oh, we make things nice and neat," said Mr. Neat. "Tidy things up," added Mr. Tidy. There the two of them are, look. Very neat and tidy, aren't they? "Perhaps we could come along and do some work for you," said Mr. Neat, looking at Mr. Messy, who was looking even messier than usual that particular morning. "But I don't want things neat and tidy," said Mr. Messy, looking downright miserable at the thought of it. "Nonsense," said Mr. Tidy. "Fiddlesticks," said Mr. Neat. "But," said Mr. Messy. "Come along," said Mr. Neat. "Off we go," said Mr. Tidy. But, said Mr. Messy. "But nothing," said Mr. Neat, and bundling him into their van, which was parked behind the house, off they went to Mr. Messy's house at the other side of the wood. Look, neat and tidy is their van. Wow. What happens next? "Good heavens," said Mr. Neat when he saw where Mr. Messy lived. "Goodness gracious me," added Mr. Tidy. "This is the messiest house I've ever seen in all my born days," they both said together at the same time. "Better do something about it," said Mr. Neat. And before Mr. Messy could open his mouth, the two of them were rushing here and there and about Mr. Messy's house. Look, that's Mr. Messy. Look, they're looking really upset at the state of Mr. Messy's house. Mr. Neat hoed and mowed and pruned and snipped and clipped and cleared and dug and made the garden look neater than it had ever looked before. There's Mr. Neat. He's working on the garden, doing some digging, isn't he? Looks really neat now. So what's Mr. Tidy doing? Mr. Tidy cleaned and primed and rubbed and painted and mended and made the outside of Mr. Messy's house look like tidier than it had ever looked before. Wow, that looks really good. So what happens next? Then they both went inside the house. You all right there, Moosey? Yep. Good heavens, said Mr. Neat for the second time that morning. Good gracious, said Mr. Tidy for the second time that morning. And then they set about cleaning the house from top to bottom. They brushed and swept and polished and scrubbed and made the inside of the house look neater and tidier than it had ever looked before. So who's that? That's Mr. Tidy, is that right? I think that's right, Oscar. I'm sure you'll tell me if I'm wrong. There we are, said Mr. Tidy. No, that was Mr. Neat, wasn't it? Gosh, I don't know. There we are, said Mr. Tidy. All finished, said Mr. Neat. Tidy and neat, said Mr. Tidy. Neat and tidy, said Mr. Neat. Mr. Messy just didn't know what to say. So there they are, happy, having done all the cleaning. Then they both looked at Mr. Messy. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Mr. Neat said to Mr. Tidy. Precisely, replied Mr. Tidy. What we're both thinking, they said together to Mr. Messy, is that you look much too messy to live in a neat and tidy house like this. But, said Mr. Messy. He knows what's coming, doesn't he? Ah, yes, let's see what happens. But whatever Mr. Messy said was no use, and Mr. Neat and Mr. Tidy whisked him off to the bathroom upstairs. It had been the messiest room in the house, but now, of course, it was neat as a new pin. Then Mr. Neat got hold of one of Mr. Messy's arms, and Mr. Tidy got hold of the other arm, and they picked him up and put him straight into the bath. Mr. Messy wasn't used to having baths. Oh dear, what is missing? Good bath's lovely, isn't it, Oscar? Mr. Neat and Mr. Tidy washed and brushed and cleaned and scrubbed and combed Mr. Messy until he didn't look like Mr. Messy at all. He's completely normal now, isn't he? In fact, he looked the opposite of messy. He looked at himself in the mirror. You know what I'm going to have to do now, he said in a rather fierce voice. Mr. Neat and Mr. Tidy looked worried. What do you think he's going to have to do now? What are you going to have to do? They asked Mr. Messy. I'm going to have to change my name, said Mr. Messy. And then he chuckled, and Mr. Neat and Mr. Tidy chuckled, and Mr. Messy laughed, and Mr. Neat and Mr. Tidy laughed. And then they all laughed together and became the best of friends. Look at them all laughing. God, that's a big laugh, isn't it? Mr. Messy now laughing. And that really is the end of the story, except to say that if you're a messy sort of person, you might have a visit from two people. And you know what they're called, don't you? Mr. Neat and Mr. Tidy. Is that right, Oscar? That's a lovely story, isn't it? Okay, on to, I think this is quite okay for you at the moment, because you have snow, and that says, I don't know if you can read it, Mr. Snow. Mr. Snow. Let's see what happens. One night, 2 days before Christmas, it started to snow. Well, yours has already started, hasn't it, Oscar? All night it snowed and snowed and snowed and snowed and snowed. Millions and billions and trillions of big, white, soft cornflakes covered the whole wide world. Wow, I think they're covering your house at the moment, aren't they? When morning came, it was quite amazing to see just how much snow had fallen. All the houses, all the trees, all the roads and all the fields were covered. It was almost as if a huge white blanket had been gently laid over everything. Everywhere you looked was white. Wow. It's actually quite beautiful, isn't it, Oscar, when you have a snowfall and you see all the lights twinkling. And then the sun came out, and so did the children. They were all dressed up and muffled, wearing scarves and woolies, and gloves and boots so that they couldn't catch cold. There we are, look, the children. I think that's you, Oscar, and that must be Annabelle. I think that's really rather clever. Oscar and Annabelle in the snow. Then it was Christmas Eve. The children all went home early so that they could go to bed early, so that they could get up early to see what Father Christmas had brought them. There they are. One of them is sleeping away, waiting for Christmas Day. I expect you're excited, aren't you? Christmas Day, not far away now. Lucy, what are you doing? But that particular Christmas Eve, Father Christmas was in trouble. Oh dear. And the trouble was that it had snowed so much that Father Christmas was stuck. Well and truly stuck. Look, he couldn't go anywhere. He was stuck. There was so much snow that his reindeer simply couldn't put his sleigh piled high with all the presents that he had to deliver to all the children. Oh dear, thought Father Christmas to himself, oh dear me, what am I to do? He sat down on his sack of toys and thought how he could manage to deliver all the presents to all the children before they woke up on Christmas morning. Oh dear me, he said out loud and sighed. There he is sitting there thinking. What do you think he's going to be able to do, Oscar? I don't know. Let's see. Now, it just so happened that Father Christmas had got himself stuck just beside a snowman, which one of the children had built. Now, that's a great snowman. You build great snowmen too, don't you, Oscar? And Annabelle, I think, helps. I've seen her doing some. And that gave him an idea, a good idea, a very good idea, a very good idea indeed. How would you like to help me? He asked the snowman. But of course the snowman didn't answer because snowmen can't talk, can they? Of course I'll have to use some of my magic to bring him to life, thought Father Christmas to himself. So he tugged his white beard 3 times and muttered some Father Christmassy magic words into it. What do you think those magic words might be? I don't know either. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, maybe. I don't know. Suddenly, you might almost say magically, the snowman did come to life. There's the snowman, and he's smiling. Way, that's pretty good. Hello, Father Christmas, said Mr. Snow, which was the snowman's name, of course. You look a bit sort of stuck if you ask me, which you haven't, but I'll say so anyway. And if you ask me again, I'd say you need a sort of helping hand, if you know what I mean, which you probably do, because that's probably why you've brought me to life, which you certainly did, so can I be of any assistance? There he is there, look, asking Father Christmas if he can help. Mr. Snow, as you might have gathered, was a rather talkative sort of snowman. Exactly, beamed Father Christmas. Let's get started. And start they did. Mr. Snow gave Father Christmas an enormous push, and off they went. They divided the work between them. It was Mr. Snow's job to make sure that all the right toys for all the right boys and all the right toys for all the right girls were put into all the right sacks. It was Father Christmas's job to make sure he took all the right sacks down all the right chimneys and delivered all the right toys to all the right boys and all the right toys to all the right girls. So there's Father Christmas coming down the chimney. Whoa! Make sure to leave some milk and a mince pie for Father Christmas and some milk for the reindeer, Oscar. Mr. Snow and Father Christmas made sure that Susan got her teddy bear. Oh, that's a great looking teddy bear, isn't it? Mr. Snow and Father Christmas made sure that Peter got his train. Oh, that's a great looking train. Like some of yours, Oscar. Mr. Snow and Father Christmas made sure that John got his piggy bank. Oh, wow. That's a lovely looking piggy bank. Not quite as good as the one in your advent calendar, though, is it, Oscar? Mr. Snow and Father Christmas even made sure that little Jane got her squeaky pink elephant to play with in the bath. How about that? A pink elephant to play with in the bath. Whoa. And then all of a sudden they discovered that between them they'd finished. I'd like to thank you very much indeed for helping me deliver all the right toys to all the right boys, said Father Christmas, shaking Mr. Snow by the hand. Now they are shaking hands. Father Christmas looks happy and so does Mr. Snowman. Not forgetting all the right toys to all the right girls, replied Mr. Snow, shaking Father Christmas by the hand. And now I'd better turn you back into a snowman again, said Father Christmas. Thank you again, and goodbye. My pleasure, smiled Mr. Snow. And you know, from that Christmas to this Christmas, Father Christmas always chooses a snowman to help him. So the next time you build a snowman, you better make sure you build him properly, because somebody you know might want that snowman to give Father Christmas a hand. And there he is. There he is, smiling. Oh, yeah, he's very happy. So, Oscar, I think that's the end of that story. And you know who that will be, don't you? Who's going to give him a hand? Ask him to give him a hand. It's going to be Father Christmas. Right, lots of love to you and to Mummy and Daddy and your little sister. And it's goodbye from me and Grandpa and Moosey and Granny and Auntie Auntie Anna. Bye for now.